మాస్టర్, వాట్ ఆర్ యూ? భగవద్గీత 6వ అధ్యాయంలో స్థితప్రజ్ఞుడి గురించి గీతాచార్యుడు చెప్పాడు. స్థితప్రజ్ఞత్వం కాభాష లాంటి, ఏది గ్రహించాలో ఏది వర్జించాలో తెలిసిన వాడే స్థితప్రజ్ఞుడు. ఏదైనా వ్యాపారంలో 1,00,000 లాభం వచ్చిందనుకో, సామాన్యుడి విషయంలో ఆ 1,00,000 ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్ ప్లస్ హోప్తో డిసప్పాయింట్మెంట్, దానివల్ల దుఃఖం. అంటే 1,00,000 ఆశించి 1,00,000 రాకపోతే నిరాశ, దుఃఖము. ఈ దుఃఖానికి కారణాన్ని ఎంతో మంది మీదికి తోస్తాడు. స్థితప్రజ్ఞుడు సామాన్యుడిలాగే వ్యాపారం చేస్తాడు. హీ టు వాంట్స్ టు ఎర్న్. ఫర్ హిమ్ దెర్ ఇస్ హోప్ బట్ నాట్ ఎక్స్పెక్టేషన్. వ్యాపారంలో నష్టానికి బాధపడడని కాదు, కానీ దాని గురించి హాఫ్ మినిట్ కన్నా ఎక్కువ ఆలోచించడు. వాడు స్థితప్రజ్ఞుడు. ఇట్టి స్థితప్రజ్ఞుడి జీవితం మాస్టర్తో ఎట్లా ఉండాలి? మాస్టర్తో వాడి అసోసియేషన్ వలన వాడు స్పిరిచువల్లీ అడ్వాన్స్డ్ అని అనుకోవద్దు. He is living like anyone, and ultimately his spiritual jnana has to be earned by application to master in his life with his life. For this, his grace is essential. Otherwise, the life which a master leads is not meant for mundane living. Every word, every syllable, every situation where he so tactfully deals with things, all this you must know. Only when higher values are known, you will be with the master. In your observations, his behavior looks different. Norms that govern the life of a common man do not hold good for him. అట్లాంటి నాట్ హోల్డింగ్ గుడ్లో కూడా ధర్మం ఉంది. అదేమిటో మీకు తెలీదు, అర్థం కాదు. Therefore ask, know the dharma and take his guidance. Then alone you will be so much rid of your doubts, almost you can live a life like him. Yet Brahmajnana may be missing. Life here and now and realization beyond are two different things. The aim in living with master is living like him. Secondly, the achievements he has must be shared by constant application to him, total supplication of ego, surrender, meditation and sadhana. Meditation on him is not a part of your life. దాన్ని కూడా మీరు ఎయిమ్గా పెట్టుకుంటేనే అది లైఫ్లో ఒక భాగం అవుతుంది. People seem to be imagining that in those that are living with master, there should be spiritual progress. No, it need not be. He need not touch the core of every one that he meets. Master is different from God in this sense. For the simple reason, if he meets 1,000 people, hardly 10 will be eligible for self-realization. The other 900 are at various levels of evolution. They are not eligible for the same gift all the time. It is only those 10 who matter for him. His touch matters for them. For others, there are two things. He serves as an example for higher values. To the core, his outer behavior is not at all important, whereas for others, his outer behavior is important. Apart from all this, there is in between another class of people. They find something extraordinary in him, so they emulate. In this connection, whatever they do, they look at him critically, candidly approach him, and then emulate. It is for them to approach and be guided. To an observant critic, what he does matters a lot. Even if he drinks toddy, the core should make no comment. They must only think, yes, this must be good. Our norms of judgment are not applicable to him, but these actions of him matter a lot for others. He totally takes care of the core. Outside this periphery, he has a large number of people, but he cannot afford to be what he is to these people. He does not stand to lose, even if he is condemned. Every master has to belong to masses. These are the less privileged, but in a large number. By this contact, what they gain is they are brought to the fore. It may take several lives, yet the contact is established. This mundane living of master is to be observed and followed. Even if there is erratic behavior, it is for the core to get clarified. If there is surrender, you are not bothered of his erratic behavior. You feel whatever he does is right. It alone is correct. You must reach such a stage. If you find it erratic, seek guidance. He cannot afford to be erratic with the public. Differences in behavior of the master are perceptible, whether he is addressing the masses, talking to the opponent, the ward or the disciple, whether he is formal or informal. His behavioral pattern is easily observable. When the master descends, Spiritual progress is not the only purpose, but it is the highest of the purposes among so many others. The very word master means he who caters to the needs at all levels. He is an all-rounder. All others are specialists. All specialists put together is a master. He must be able to tackle all from an innocent child or a deaf and dumb up to the scholar in Vedas, an idiot or a criminal. All are within his purview. He does not have to think twice in tackling. There is indeed great beauty in observing this. It is a very wide spectrum. He is primarily a great giver of anything. The greatest thing he wants to give is satisfaction. Secondly, relief. Thirdly, material. Fourthly, services. Service sometimes includes service, subordination, and humility. Nothing is excluded. It precludes nothing, including service to others, servility, and subordination of himself. Let us say a Vedic scholar comes to him and wants to exhibit his scholarship before him. Guru does not pop out his head. Therefore, the scholar is satisfied. Whoever comes to him, primarily he goes satisfied. And that humble scholar comes, who wants to say how inferior he is before him. He is furthermore humble. The latter scholar, with the same degree of knowledge as the former, gets benefited. If the former comes with humility, he too can be benefited. In his capillary, there is still a cap. There is the highest teaching available. He certainly gives for both the scholars what they seek, if not more, never less. In his capillary, there is still a cap. There is a higher teaching available. He certainly gives for both the scholars what they seek, if not more, never less. He never gives anything that is not asked for. However, there may be exceptional cases where people are highly ignorant of knowing what is truly wanted. Now, who is a master? 1. Kindness. 2. Love of all. 3. Tolerance. These three make a master. These three are the medium of communication with anybody, without any exception. Kindness, love of all, and tolerance. Where they are not shown, tolerance to anyone, tolerance is deliberately eschewed as a matter of policy, not as a matter of automatic reacting like someone else. He refuses to tolerate deliberately. Kindness, love, and tolerance are part of his nature. They need not be acquired. His keenness of observation is so great, nothing escapes his notice. He deliberately chooses not to notice a thing, or deliberately chooses to give an impression that he has not noticed. This is a big clue to understand Master. Sometimes he is so considerate to make a man feel satisfied. He deliberately makes a man commoner so that he can compare himself with the Master. Otherwise, the man feels an inferiority complex and his superiority is injured if superiority complex is present in the Master. Even when the Master is asleep, he is fully awake, for he never sleeps. He feigns sleep as if asleep. Sleep in all common men means suspension of all senses and becoming incommunicable. He is not. You can straightaway speak to him, and if he wants to communicate a thing to you, you can't escape it. If you want him to communicate, you may fail to understand. So before wanting him to communicate to you, take his permission. May I expect this teaching orally told or mentally expected or hoped in the heart? Seek his permission, which is a necessary preamble. You must say, if you permit, I shall request. Master tolerates more than a king. The king enforces rules on his subjects, but the master does not enforce any rule on his subjects who are his children. He tackles them with love. What is a master? Primarily love. Secondly, responsibility. Kindness is natural to him. He is all the time kind, knows no harshness and negation. They have to be done for a purpose, deliberately, like the Sattvic Vishnu becoming Narasimha. They are poles apart. The Sattva of Vishnu is endless. How Sattvic is Vishnu, Brahma does not know. Bruhu once tried to test. No response, no activity from Vishnu. Therefore fell at Vishnu's feet. Such a Vishnu becomes a killer with all tamas. This is what is meant in deliberately donning the qualities for a purpose. So the man representative of Almighty with all his abilities is Guru. He is the human replica with the only difference that the body was born and gone. Any number of yugas is not a bit of time for him, for he is essentially timeless. In Almighty, one aspect is greater. Almighty does not look at specific people. Guru does look at only specific people, hence his limitations. Such a concept of Guru is equally approachable and unapproachable to many others. Man's ego prevents him from reaching, for he is misleadingly common. Honest seekers who try to get the benefit from him alone shall be benefited. It is not a commodity available to all. He is essentially one oriented in a particular style, the essence of being the same like the power, like the electrical energy. The non-particular wisdom becomes a particular ego. Essentially, it is non-particular. This wisdom becoming particular is the ego that is master. That is his ego. He caters to those that approach him. You go to him with a vessel. He gives you only a vessel full, not beyond. The bigger the vessel, the more you get depending upon the size of the vessel. You can derive from him. Well, to those that seek physical and material advancement, what they ask for, when they ask for, it is sometimes denied. In this, the best way of fulfilling of your desires from the master is one, earnest belief that it shall be granted, a candid and humble readiness to be denied if he does not grant. I am sure he will grant. Even if he not granted, I will not underestimate him. 3. Checking up your own accounts before you ask. Looking at your colleagues, what do you observe? The colleagues that had not asked for it are not being given. It is just a comparison. Sometimes if you are sitting in the same row, a particular food, say laddu can't be served. This is a thing exclusively reserved for you, but it has to be given to you in privacy. Similarly, in the fellow beings, you have to draw comparisons. What norms he is following, what teaching he is giving in similar circumstances. The master thoroughly knows what would follow in case granted. What would happen if not granted? He will not commit the patent mistake of simply granting. He would weigh the circumstances if granted. Supposing you want a lakh, it is not granted. You would not consider if granted. A man takes for granted his desire being granted. If carefully analyzed, sorted out, you would revive your own request. In your own wisdom, you won't ask for it. There is a dying son. You want the extension of life of this dying son. It is from your viewpoint a very justified reason. Ask the Savior to save your son, but a man seeking advancement will have greater understanding to think a lot. If this desire is granted, if not granted, there is a despondency, disappointment, half belief. If you claim to be a full believer, the weighing of the circumstances, if granted or not, must be the same. You would agree with him and all his reasons rather for not granting than granting. He expects you to do this. That is why he is a master. God does not expect you to do anything. He does not give you wisdom for nor jnana. He knows to give as much as you desire, good or bad. Here, no discrimination. Therefore, he is a non-particular power. Whereas master is concerned with the welfare of his children. When the Rakshasas did severe penance, anything was given in the interest of their vas. Here, the tapas is rewarded. If he is the master, he does not grant anything and everything. He would argue and deny. He is the caretaker. It is he who gives the ultimate realization and therefore is responsible for the growth. He will remove your intelligence if it comes in the way of your progress. Sometimes in the interest of his child, if his progress deters, by being very kind, he withdraws. God has no concern about progress. God has no norms of propriety. Enta tapasso anta param. ఏమడిగితే అది తక్షణం ఇస్తాడు. ఒకడు తపస్సు చేసి ఐ వాంట్ పార్వతి అంటే నెక్స్ట్ మూమెంట్ హీ వాజ్ నాట్ దేర్. అతను లేకపోవడానికి స్ప్లిట్ సెకండ్ చాలు. హీ సింప్లీ గివ్స్, దట్స్ ఆల్. In the case of God, he does not think of the consequences of what has been asked for. He has no business to think of consequences. For all that God gives, the recipient is responsible, whereas Master is responsible for what all he gives, rather makes himself responsible. He is giver or refuser. God has created the creation, the widest spectrum possible to one and all with no exceptions. One can become Indra, Brahma, or anything. In the dangerously wide choice, it automatically follows that a man requires guidance and protection. Therefore, Master is the guide. It is here that Jiddu Krishnamurti is failing. Anything can be achieved by anyone. The open possibilities are dangerously liberal. In the Chaurasta, supposing guns, revolvers, and pistols are freely sold, people stand hours in queue to buy them. There is an obvious danger in this free sale. The consequences are immediate. 100 killings as a result of which there is reduction in population. Immediately, government would ban such a free sale. Master is like a government that governs. He gives or denies for the welfare only, plus the Almighty himself he is. The greatest need of Master arises when a man is capable of earning a thing. He must know what to earn. Common folk who does not know what to earn does not deserve a master. Only when a man has gone to level of doing a thing, he needs a bit of advice, caution, education, and must be informed of the pros and cons. It is always the case that Master has few in the corps. Quite a few. In granting your desires, if Lord Venkateshwara refuses, it only means that your tapas is inadequate. Venkateshwara has no norms, no dharma. He is non-particular, pure jnana. Somebody may ask him to kill a Brahmin. He does. రాక్షసులు తపస్సు చేసి వరాలు సంపాదించి ధర్మాన్ని నాశనం చేశారు. వరాలు ఇవ్వడం వరకే ఆయన పని. ఇక్కడ మాయ అత్యద్భుతంగా పనిచేస్తుంది. వరప్రదానం వలన ధర్మచ్యుతి జరిగినప్పుడు వరమిచ్చింది ఆయనే కనుక వరం పొందిన వాళ్ళు జరిగిందే ధర్మం అనుకుంటారు. It was of course their presumption where so powerfully Maya works. They imagine many qualities in God and they govern themselves according to their norms. Venkateshwara gives everything that is asked for. People are getting even those which are harmful. Once a man prayed to Venkateshwara that his competitor in business should get a paralytic stroke. This he confessed to me. I replied that the man getting the stroke and himself praying Lord is just coincidental. But in truth, it is not like that. I have to tell that fellow like that only. Otherwise, he may play the same on me or somebody else. Because it is true that anybody can get any boons granted. వాలి వదలో ధర్మం లేదని క్రిటిసైజ్ చేస్తారు. భగవంతుడికి ధర్మం ఏది? సుగ్రీవ has asked for it. Therefore Rama granted. The whole trouble is God has no dharma. He is to be realized when all dharma is eschewed. If you have conduct of rules, your God does not have conduct of rules at all. This is the nature of God. You have two minds, dharma dharma vichakshana jesevi. One instinct, two discretion. Simultaneously thinking. God has no mind at all. Therefore, he is not touched by Prakriti. He is above Prakriti, whereas Prakriti has God in it, so that it perpetuates. Prakriti is Maya. That means the life force is Prakriti. Itself is Maya. The content in Prakriti is Maya. Prakriti itself is Maya. It defies your understanding. God is too flexible to understand. What defies your understanding is your own conduct. It must fundamentally be different from your own conduct. Imagine two people singing. The two voices are at the same pitch, same tone. They are absolutely identical. You can't feel that they are two voices. So identical are they. The second voice is cognizable. because of your voice. Otherwise, you cannot say that there are two. Nature is like that. What are you? The nature is that is not different from you. Having entered Prakriti, which is endless, which is infinite, which defies Maya, non Prakriti defies your understanding because Prakriti is you. How would you know where to go, where to start, where to cross, what to do, where there is no signpost, no boards, no directions? You have to only turn up and down. This is what totally Maya is. Prakriti is never ending because God is living in it. So as totally separate from it, the entirety of God is separate. Three-fourths of him is the other difference. Tripadortha Udait Purushaha. In Prakriti, one-fourth of himself is present. The God in Prakriti is one. One God does not imagine himself as partly living in Prakriti. He is fully segregated, whereas God in Prakriti does not know anything without Prakriti, so that Prakriti may survive. This is the mystery. Not knowing it, all misstatements written, taught, and explained. It is again the Prakriti that defies the understanding. It reunites with the Almighty only when Prakriti ceases to exist. But Prakriti ceases to exist at whose will? When it is being maintained, enlivened at the behest of the Lord. God thinks of creation and withdraws. He has only two sankalpas. When he feels like withdrawing, what he withdraws is not Prakriti, but a part of himself. This is the light and shadow play going on. Having done his sankalpa, Prakriti is perpetually going on. God in Prakriti has no concern with anybody. Then, who is the God giving boons to Rakshasas? That God which is the content of Prakriti, which is nothing different from the Almighty outside the world, is all powerful. Prakriti desires. Prakriti is the desirer, seeker, receiver, enjoyer of the fruits. The master who knows this mystery essentially lives outside the Prakriti, identifies himself with God outside this Prakriti, totally detached, unconnected with Prakriti. He is none else other than the Tripadortha. Therefore, he is none else other than God. He lives simultaneously in Prakriti as well. He is the player, writer, director, and audience all rolled into one. That is Master. There is only one Master, Krishna, whole and complete. Any amsha of Krishna is no lesser. One drop of nectar is as much as nectar. ప్రకృతి వశులైనంటే మాయాబంధితులైన మనుషులు మాయనే ప్రార్థిస్తారు. ఈ మిస్టరీ ఎప్పుడు సాల్వ్ అవుతుంది? ఓన్లీ వెన్ యూ ఐడెంటిఫై విత్ ద లార్డ్. దట్ ఈస్ ద లార్డ్ నాట్ ఇన్ ప్రకృతి బట్ బియాండ్ ప్రకృతి. Seek one who is ultimately one and the same with the all-pervading God. He is totally unconnected, non-particular wisdom. He certainly grants one desire, that is total redemption. All desires include existence with Prakriti. Master steers you through Prakriti. Samskaras will be washed and ego shall be purified. Ego is fully made and governed by the Prakriti. The five elements in Prakriti play a false game while giving boons to you. He identifies himself with you. What binds you to Prakriti is body and mind. To rid you of it, Master comes with body and mind. His body touches his mind, your mind and body. Your body can touch only yours. His touch is necessary in one life only. If he comes again in a series of lives, it is a game only to show the benefit for others. He is attracted, fascinated, and taught. That is the Master. From where does such a Master come? Prayers create the Master. He has no existence but for you. Don't think he came of his own accord. It is for you to lose or have it. బజార్ నుంచి అపరూపమైన వస్తువుని తెచ్చుకుని జాగ్రత్తగా ఎంజాయ్ చేస్తాం, కానీ పారేయం. Having created him with all wisdom, you can't afford to lose him. మీరంతా 100 జన్మలు, కనీసం 1800 సంవత్సరాల తపస్సు చేసి, ప్రేయర్స్ చేసి, పిలిపించుకున్నారు. ఏమని ప్రే చేశారు? ఎవరిని అడ్రస్ చేశారు? ఓ ప్యూర్ లైట్, కమ్ గైడ్ మీ, ఐ వాంట్ టు బి గైడెడ్, లీడ్ మీ టు సెల్ఫ్ రియలైజేషన్, లీడ్ మీ ఫ్రమ్ డార్క్నెస్ టు లైట్, లీడ్ మీ ఫ్రమ్ డెత్ టు డెస్ట్లెస్నెస్, లెట్ మీ నాట్ బి బౌండ్ బై ప్రకృతి, let not bound by the weaknesses of prakriti. Asatoma sadgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrutyurma amrudangamaya అని ప్రార్థనలు చేశారు. Although prayer is addressed with no pin code, it does not go unanswered. It goes to the non-particular God. But how can pure light guide? So it has taken a human form. The entire philosophy of the world is negation. జగత్తు మాయ లేదు అంటారు. బట్ ఫర్ ద థాట్ ఆఫ్ ద లార్డ్ ఇట్ వుడ్ నాట్ బి దేర్. ఎట్ హిస్ బిహెస్ట్ ఇట్ ఈస్ దేర్ ఆర్ నాట్. హ్యావింగ్ బీన్ దేర్ వన్స్ అండ్ నాట్ ఈజ్ సత్ అండ్ అసత్. మాస్టర్ గివ్స్ దిస్ విజ్డమ్ ఫ్రమ్ విత్ ఇన్. యూ హ్యావ్ ఆస్క్డ్ ఫర్ ఇట్, ఆస్క్డ్ ఫర్ మాస్టర్. హూ ఈస్ దేర్ టు కమ్? ఎవరూ లేరు, వచ్చినవాడు లేడు. ఈజ్ యంత్రం లాంటి ఆటోమేటం. ఉపయోగించుకుంటారో లేదో మీ చేతుల్లో ఉంది. వాడు బోట్, వెదర్ టు బోట్, టు సింక్, టు జంప్, టు రో, ఇట్ ఈస్ యువర్ విష్. యూ హ్యావ్ టోటల్ ఫ్రీడమ్. హీ డస్ హిస్ జాబ్. ఇట్ ఈస్ లెఫ్ట్ ఫర్ యూ టు చూస్. సచ్ ఎ ఫ్రీడమ్ ఈస్ డేంజరస్. బట్ అవుట్ ఆఫ్ కైండ్నెస్, వెన్ ఫ్రీడమ్ ఈస్ ఎక్సర్సైజ్డ్ రాంగ్లీ, హీ కమ్స్ ఇన్ టైమ్. సోల్స్ ఆఫ్ రాక్షసస్ నెవర్ ఆస్క్డ్ ఫర్ గైడెన్స్. అంత తపస్సులు చేశారు, కానీ ఏం సంపాదించారు? తర్వాత శుక్రుడు వచ్చాడు. నో పరమగురు ఇస్ దేర్. ఎట్ హూస్ బిహెస్ట్ దే ప్రేడ్ ఫర్ దెమ్సెల్వ్స్ అండ్ ఫర్ అదర్స్. దే ప్రేడ్ దోస్ హూ హ్యావ్ కనెక్షన్ విత్ అస్. ఫర్ దేర్ సేక్ కీప్ కమింగ్. ఇక్కడ దే ఎవరు? ఇది సృష్టి ఆదరించి జరుగుతున్న కార్యక్రమం. సృష్టి ఆరంభించగానే ముక్తి కోరుకున్న కొందరు జీవులను ఉద్ధరించడానికి భగవంతుడు సైమల్టేనియస్గా సృష్టిలో ప్రవేశించాడు. డైరెక్ట్గా నిర్గుణ నుంచి వచ్చిన వాడు గురువు. మహావిష్ణువు వంశలో కపిలుడు గురువుగా వచ్చి బోధించారు ప్రకృతిలోని భగవంతుని గురించి. ప్రకృతిపై భగవంతుడు గురువు. ఏ గురువు ఈజ్ నాట్ ఎ పార్ట్ ఆఫ్ క్రియేషన్, మైండ్ యూ. వాడు మీలాగే శరీరం ధరిస్తాడు. అయినా ఇక్కడ కూడా మెటీరియల్ డిఫరెన్స్ ఇస్ దేర్. బోట్ రో చేయడం కోసం వచ్చిన వాడే గురువు. ఆల్ ద అపరెంట్ రిలేషన్షిప్స్ ఆఫ్ ద మాస్టర్ ఆన్ ద హ్యూమన్ ప్లేన్ ఆర్ ఫాల్స్. Only one relation is true, that is the God-soul relation. The peculiarity of Guru's body is as much natural and unnatural like any body. పరశివతత్వంలోంచి విష్ణువు వస్తే ఆ విష్ణువు కపిలుడైతే ఆ ప్రజాపతి వద్ద నుంచి వచ్చే సృష్టి నెగేషన్ అని పర్పెట్యుయేట్ అవుతుంది. ఇక్కడ భగవంతుడు గురువు కూడా. ఆ వాయిస్ అనాది నుంచి వినవస్తోంది. ఈ మహత్తర బోధ చేసిన సమయం మార్గశిర బహుళ అమావాస్య. గురువుగారు పుట్టినరోజు మార్గశిర శుద్ధ నవమి. 22 తిథులు ముందు పెట్టుకుని ఇవాళ పుట్టిన నాటి నుంచి మీకు కంప్లీట్ టీచింగ్ ఇచ్చాను. ఈ మధ్య చెప్పిందంతా ఇన్ బిట్వీన్ ట్రూత్స్ అయితే ఇవాళ చెప్పింది అల్టిమేషన్ ఆఫ్ ద అల్టిమో. అమావాస్య అంటే యూనియన్ ఆఫ్ మైండ్ అండ్ హార్ట్. ఏమీ ఉండదు కదా. మార్గశిర అంటే అన్ని మార్గాలకు శిరస్సు లాంటిది. సాధకుడు తెలుసుకున్న అన్ని మార్గములకు ఇది శిరస్సు అన్నమాట. ఇన్ ఎసెన్స్, వాట్ ఈస్ మాస్టర్? అల్టిమేట్ అబ్సల్యూట్ ట్రూత్. మాస్టర్ సెడ్, I do not lift a pebble without the command of my master. Functionally, we may appear to be two, but essentially we are one. We do not differ because we are not different. It is like one's two hands coming together to form the greeting Namaste. Faith is realized only when you experience this state of being in consonance with your master. That is why I don't insist on this. It will come on its own. That is why I will not care if you violate my small minimum instructions. As for the question of lack of faith, you have to argue it out with yourself, since it has arisen in you, in your intellect. It arises only because you see yourself to be different from your guru. The truth is that you are not different from anyone, anything. Everything is the same. That being so, who or what is not a guru? A master, an absolute guru, does not insist on faith in him because faith is not external. The master makes you dwell inside yourself. He does not externalize anything. Faith is peace. I am in you. As I come out, you will realize. Then you will feel peace. As it is a sin to limit to God to the physical, it is folly to look upon Guru just as a human being. Likewise, to treat mantras as mere arrangement of sound is a sin. Do not attribute forms to God. Do not take the Guru just for a human being. Do not attempt to give and take material nonsense with God. God does not save you just because you break a coconut. He saves you because you said you will break one. He saves you because there is some attitude of service, a willingness to give behind such an intention. What is it that I can give you, God? Please save me. This would be an honest prayer. Whatever we have has been given by Him. Right from the food we have, everything belongs to Him. Then, what is the right attitude to prayer? I pray to you to give me the signs of permanence. I pray to you to take me and establish me in you. I want you, only you. I may lament even when I am confronted by a small difficulty and call you for help. I realize later that I should have asked you only for you instead of a small favor from you. I am happy, however, I am able to remember you. I know that my effort is negligible, wisdom nil, ignorance abundant, and strength to bear the ravage of life very less. I pray to you to give me the strength not to ask anything else but you. This is how our attitude should be. An absolute guru is the absolute truth. He has no expectations. Hence, he has no surprises. No one is unspecial to him. His consciousness is always all pervasive, and he neither pops out unduly nor peeps in with their difficulty. This is why nothing can be kept away from him as a secret, though he does not look for it. Precisely for this reason, he does not peep into future. The future gleams into him. He remains at the threshold of the waking state when he is supposed to be asleep. He allows his body and mind to take care of their duties while he remains in the background as the all-encompassing overall background. There is neither cessation nor negation in him. In him, all the sheets are subservient to his will. He is Sankalpamayam. The seer sees what is going to happen. In him, the wish and the happening are neither successive nor particularly intentional. They spontaneously coexist. Thus, all capabilities exist in him as flowers in the garden. Some in bloom, some on grass, some in sleep, but everything exists in him. That is why, from his point of view, the highest siddhi is but mediocre. He may be perfectly incapable of speaking two sentences coherently, or may be a synonym for torrential eloquence. He may not know even the most ordinary things of the world, but there is nothing that he cannot know at a moment's notice. He is also a yogi. He is never influenced by anything. None of the twins can touch him. He acts in all seriousness genuinely, but he is never trapped either by action or its results. He has no concern or anxiety whatsoever. He is never comprehensible, but is extremely accessible through love. He is available. Love is his language. Whatever may be the expression, only love is communicated. That is only possible avenue for interacting with him. He can cook, he can kill, he may do so as he pleases, but he is untainted. His seemingly actions are only service in motion, and they are absolutely impersonal. He has chosen to come. He has chosen to stay. He shall choose to leave when he calls it a day. For him, there is neither coming nor going. He is continuous, remaining. Guru's job is to let your desire for moksha grow manifold. The Guru takes the disciples' huge karma into his universal consciousness. He can handle the shock of that stock and ensure that your peace is not disturbed. You do not deviate from the path. He is duty bound. He never forgets his duty, that of helping you. That is why it is said that Guru is the sweetest thing. That is why he is worshipped and loved so much. Spiritual presence is all pervasive. Physical presence is confined to a place. That's why I am 1,000 times more capable without a body. Performance of everything is assured without constraints. You may ask, who would clear your doubts? My answer would be that I would continue to do from within. Your thought will unfold. For such an interaction, communication must be established over a time. Think of the form, you will establish contact. It speaks from within. The Guru observes the predominant samskaras in you. He watches as to how anxious you are about getting liberated from the cycle of births and deaths, as to how much of material desires you have. A desire for liberation may also be accompanied by certain material desires. But if your longing for freedom is the dominant samskaras in you, it becomes easier for the Guru to work fast in you. Result given by Guru depends on your dominant samskaras. This is why a strong desire for salvation is strongly recommended in by Guru. Moksha is strongly asked for a moment at a particular moment. The moment is not a process, but living towards it is the process. If you have a strong desire for moksha, even if you have a mountain of karma, it is disconnected and you become free forever. If you have a guru, if not even an ounce of karma, can bring you back in the absence of a strong desire for freedom and in the absence of guru.